Did Reverend James Cleveland really die from AIDS?
Whoa.
Both of them were Christians, but one had backslid.
King of gospel music, the late Reverend James Cleveland. The gospel music industry lost its king on February 9th, 1991.
James Cleveland was a famous gospel singer and songwriter. He had a son who stayed out of the public eye for many years. Now, at 54 years old, James Cleveland's son has come forward with some shocking news. There have been rumors for a long time about James Cleveland's personal life. These rumors have made many people curious and worried. Finally, his son, Christopher Harris, told everyone some disturbing truths that shook the gospel community. These hidden actions made some people call Cleveland the most evil man in gospel music. Before we talk about these shocking revelations, let's delve into James Cleveland's early life and career. Understanding his beginnings will help us see how he became so famous and what led to the dark secrets that were later revealed by his son.
I'm 58 years old, and I said if the Lord would allow me to see that birthday, I would have been in gospel 50 years.
James Cleveland was born on December 5, 1931, in Chicago, a city full of gospel music. His parents were hardworking and very religious. They raised him in a home where faith and music were very important. His grandmother, who was also very religious, played a big role in his early life. She took young James to the Pilgrim Baptist Church, which became a central place in his life and career. From a young age, James showed a natural talent for music. At just 8 years old, he sang solo with the church choir, impressing everyone who heard him. The church's choir director, Thomas A. Dorsey, known as the father of gospel music, saw James's talent and decided to help him. Dorsey's guidance was crucial in shaping James's future. James's early years were filled with music and inspiration. He looked up to Roberta Martin, a well-known gospel singer and pianist who also performed at Pilgrim Baptist Church. Martin's influence was significant, and her group, the Roberta Martin Singers, helped shape James's unique style. Inspired by Martin, young James began to compose his own music, a skill that would later define his career.
To obey, no matter where.
Growing up during the Great Depression was tough for James. Money was tight and luxuries were few. His family couldn't afford a piano, so James practiced on the windowsill, using the crevices and wedges as imaginary keys. He often talked about how he dreamed of playing a real piano one day. Despite these challenges, James's dedication never wavered. By the time he was in high school, his parents saved enough money to buy him an upright piano. This was a turning point. James practiced tirelessly, improving his skills and developing a style that blended traditional gospel with jazz influences. His talent was undeniable, and it wasn't long before he began attracting attention. As a teenager, James joined a local gospel group called the Thorn Gospel Crusaders. It was here that his talent as a composer started to shine. The group began featuring his compositions, and his work quickly caught the attention of important people in the gospel music community. One of his early compositions, Grace is Sufficient, performed at a Baptist convention in 1948, was a significant milestone. This performance led Roberta Martin to start publishing his work, marking the beginning of his professional career. During this time, James also became involved with the Soul Winners for Christ, a missionary group created by his teenage friend, Jesse Jimerson Phillips. This group, based at Chicago's Greater Harvest Baptist Church, included notable members like Richard D. Hennon. This experience further solidified James's commitment to gospel music.
Christian said, "Tell me."
James Cleveland's early life was a mix of talent, hard work, and determination. Despite growing up in difficult times, he never gave up on his dream of making music. His early experiences and the support he received from mentors like Thomas A. Dorsey and Roberta Martin played a crucial role in shaping him into the gospel music legend he would become. And talking about his faith, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. James faced a significant setback when he strained his vocal cords while singing with a local group. This injury gave him the distinctive growly voice that would later become his hallmark. Rather than seeing it as a hindrance, James embraced his new voice, using it to add depth and emotion to his performances.
Well, I want you to know, on behalf of all of us that's come after you, we call ourselves neophytes,
You've been such an inspiration to us.
By 1950, James Cleveland was ready to take the gospel world by storm. He joined the Gospelaires, a dynamic trio led by Noralice McKissick and Bessie Folk. This group aimed to modernize traditional gospel songs. Cleveland's arrangements of classics like Give Me That Old Time Religion and It's Me, O Lord brought new life to these songs. However, the Gospelaires did not last long. When the trio disbanded, Cleveland started working with Roberta Martin, one of his early idols, who hired him as a composer and arranger. His big break came with his powerful rendition of Peace Be Still, which catapulted him to fame. Next, Cleveland collaborated with his childhood friend Albertina Walker. Walker had founded the Caravans, a group that became a launchpad for many gospel legends. Cleveland joined as a composer, arranger, pianist, occasional singer, and even a narrator. The Caravans were a powerhouse with talents like Shirley Caesar, known as the First Lady of Gospel, and Setta George, who co-wrote some of their biggest hits. Other members included Dolores Washington, Josephine Howard, Inez Andrews, Dorothy Norwood, James Herron, and Loliata Holloway. This group was a breeding ground for future gospel stars. In November 1954, Walker gave Cleveland a significant opportunity by convincing States Records to let him record with her group, marking his first time in a recording studio. Cleveland continued to record with the Caravans until States Records shut down in 1957. This period was critical in establishing his reputation in the gospel music scene. His collaborations with Walker continued into the late 1970s, producing albums like Reunion in 1977 and Please Be Patient With Me in 1979, which earned Walker her first gold record.
Please be patient with me.
Cleveland didn't stop there. In 1959, he recorded a version of Ray Charles's hit, Hallelujah, I Love Her So, as a solo artist. By 1960, he had incorporated blues riffs into his music. His rendition of the Soul Stirrers song, The Love of God, backed by the voices of Tabernacle from Detroit, was a hit and earned him a record contract that would change his life forever. In 1962, Cleveland signed with Savoy Records, a historic jazz label. This partnership produced a vast catalog of soul gospel recordings, many captured live in concert settings. Reverend Lawrence Roberts, pastor of the First Baptist Church in Nutley, New Jersey, liked the idea of capturing the spirit of worship live on record. Cleveland and the Angelic Choir of Nutley released several albums together, including the iconic Peace Be Still in September 1963. This album sold thousands of copies and earned Cleveland his first gold album, staying on the Billboard charts for over 15 years.
With blackness.
Cleveland then moved to Los Angeles to become minister of music at Grace Memorial Church of God in Christ. Here he worked with keyboardist Billy Preston and the Angelic Choir of Nutley, New Jersey, further boosting his popularity. He formed the James Cleveland Singers, which included Odessa McCassell, Georgia White, Eugene Bryant, and Billy Preston. By 1965, Cleveland's group included Clyde Brown and Charles Barnett, and they began touring extensively throughout the United States and abroad. Their performances in major venues were highly anticipated. This collaboration produced recordings like Heaven That Will Be Good Enough for Me, Two Wings, and The Lord Is Blessing Me Right Now. Over the years, other talented singers joined the Cleveland Singers, including Marva Hines and the renowned soprano soloist Cleo Kennedy. They were mainstays in the group until Cleveland died. Cleveland capitalized on his growing fame by founding the Southern California Community Choir, SCCC, a move that would further cement his legacy. The choir became a powerhouse in the gospel world, and in 1975, Cleveland won his first Grammy Award with SCCC for the 1974 album In the Ghetto. This was a huge milestone, marking the beginning of a string of successful collaborations with the choir. From 1970 to 1990, Cleveland and the SCCC produced several albums, with the 1979 release It's a New Day, featuring the hit God Is being one of their most successful. Another standout was their 1981 album Where Is Your Faith, which solidified the choir's reputation in the gospel music scene.
My joy in the times of sorrow.
Cleveland's final Grammy came posthumously in 1991 for the album Having Church, featuring his iconic rendition of Tremaine Hawkins' What Shall I Do? Cleveland took a significant step by founding Cornerstone Institutional Baptist Church in Los Angeles. The church started small but grew to thousands of members under Cleveland's leadership. His first album with the church choir, The Voices of Cornerstone, was released in 1980. This album included memorable tracks like Jesus Lover of My Soul and A Praying Spirit, written by Elbernita Twinkie Clark and popularized by the Clark sisters. The church's second album, My Expectations, released in 1981, also garnered attention. James didn't just focus on his own choir. He was instrumental in bringing together and supporting numerous gospel artists. He worked with groups like the Donald Vales Choraleers, the Harold Smith Majestics, the Los Angeles Gospel Messengers, and the New Jerusalem Baptist Church Choir. These collaborations produced timeless hits like Lord Help Me to Hold Out and I Don't Feel No Ways Tired. The James Cleveland Singers saw several iterations and additions over the years, starting in 1964. The group included members like Odessa McCassell and Roger Roberts. Cleveland's dedication to gospel music and his ability to bring together talented artists ensured that his legacy would live on for generations. One of his well-known songs is Jesus is the Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me. This song, originally by Gladys Knight and the Pips, got Cleveland a Grammy nomination in 1975. He sang this with the Charles Fold Singers from Cincinnati, Ohio. Cleveland also made a gospel version of Barry Manilow's song, I Write the Songs. This was on his 1977 Grammy-winning album, Live at Carnegie Hall. Another famous gospel version he made was of Whitney Houston's song, Didn't We Almost Have It All? Cleveland changed it to Aren't You Glad You Know the Lord? And recorded it in 1989 with choirs from Northern and Southern California. This song was on the album Breathe on Me, which featured Daryl Coley and Milton Bigham. From 1985 to 1988, Cleveland started his own record label called King James Records. This label was in partnership with Sound of Gospel Records in Detroit. King James Records released 3 albums with the GMWA, a solo album by Billy Preston, and 2 albums with the Los Angeles Gospel Messengers. One of these albums, Praise 88, became very popular. Cleveland also brought back his James Cleveland Presents series, featuring acts like the Craig Brothers and the Harmonizing Four. However, the record label closed after the distributor shut down. James Cleveland's work with the GMWA and his talent for turning pop songs into gospel classics had a big impact on gospel music. He blended different musical styles into gospel, which made the genre more popular. Cleveland's influence on gospel music continued to grow through his workshops, recordings, and record label. Cleveland won several Grammy Awards during his career. His first Grammy was in 1974 with the Southern California Community Choir for the album In the Ghetto. He won another Grammy in 1977 for his live album James Cleveland Live at Carnegie Hall. In 1980, he won again for his album Lord Let Me Be an Instrument with the Charles Fold Singers. His final Grammy was awarded posthumously in 1990 for the album Having Church with the Southern California Community Choir. There were darker aspects of his life that came to light after his death, involving his former foster son, Christopher Harris. Christopher Harris, who once went by the name Christopher Cleveland, was a young member of Cleveland's Los Angeles Church Choir. At 13, Harris was the only boy alto, standing at 6 feet tall and looking much older than his age. James Cleveland took a special interest in Harris. This relationship, however, turned into something sinister. Harris alleged that he endured 5 years of abuse at the hands of Cleveland, beginning when he was just 13. This abuse reportedly continued until Harris contracted HIV. He later filed a lawsuit against Cleveland's estate, seeking justice for the years of The case was settled out of court, and while Harris is prohibited from discussing the settlement's details, he has spoken about his life with Cleveland. Harris described how Cleveland exploited his dreams and naivety. He wanted to sing and looked up to Cleveland, who promised to help him, but instead used his position to manipulate and control him.
Did Reverend James Cleveland really die from AIDS? Whoa.
Harris's claims were shocking, but they also shed light on a broader issue within the church, and the gospel music community. Cleveland's orientation was an open secret among those close to him. People in his inner circle and at his church knew about his relationships with young men, but chose to ignore them, pretending nothing was wrong. This cult of silence and denial allowed the behavior to continue. The case was settled with undisclosed terms. According to Heilbutt 2012, Cleveland was widely recognized as in the gospel circuit.
They paid to go see James Cleveland, church folk. Well, it was well known that James Cleveland was.
Now, James Cleveland's death was officially attributed to heart failure. On February 9, 1991, James Cleveland died in Culver City, California. He was 59. Some reports list the cause of death as congestive heart failure, stating that the singer had fallen into a coma shortly before his death. Over 8,000 people gathered for his funeral service at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles. He is interred at Inglewood Park Cemetery in Inglewood, California. Harris hinted at a different cause. He suggested that the heart failure diagnosis was a cover-up for the real reason behind Cleveland's death. This insinuation further complicated Cleveland's legacy, intertwining his contributions to gospel music with the personal scandals that surfaced after his death. James Cleveland's story is a complex one. He was a musical genius who transformed gospel music, but his personal actions cast a long shadow over his legacy. After his death, there were legal problems because he didn't leave a will. One big issue was about who should get his belongings and money. Andre McKeesich said he should get some of James Cleveland's things because Cleveland supported him. For folks wondering who Andre is, well, in 1968, Esther McKeesich moved to Los Angeles where she met James Cleveland. Andre McKeesich, whose real name is Andre, became like a foster son to James. They lived together in James's home for 12 years, from when Andre was 12 until he turned 24. During this time, James supported Andre and even claimed him as a dependent on his taxes. There was talk that James wanted to legally adopt Andre, but Esther, Andre's mother, declined because she wanted Andre to keep her last name. Andre believed he could inherit from James under a specific probate law that allows foster children or stepchildren to inherit if there's clear evidence of an intent to adopt, hindered only by a legal barrier. However, Andre was 18 when James passed away, which was 16 years before the death. This meant Andre didn't qualify to inherit part of the estate. On November 6, 1991, Andre petitioned to transfer property to James's estate. Annette Mae Thomas, the trustee of James's trust, opposed these petitions. She argued that Andre lacked standing because he wasn't legally adopted and was only mentioned as a friend and godson in the trust, with a specific gift of $110,000 which he received. Annette filed for summary judgment, and the court agreed. The judge ruled that Andre didn't qualify as an interested person because there was no legal barrier to his adoption after he turned 18. Despite living with James and receiving support, no adoption process started after Andre became an adult, meaning he had no legal right to inherit under the probate law. Andre appealed, but the appellate court upheld the summary judgment. The court said the law required a legal barrier to be the only reason the adoption didn't happen. Since Esther's refusal was no longer an issue after Andre turned 18, James had ample opportunity to adopt him if he wanted, but he didn't. Cleveland definitely faced many challenges. One big issue was his relationship with his daughter, Leon Cleveland, and her mother, Jean Irvin. In October 1991, Jean Irvin, who attended the Cornerstone Institutional Baptist Church, publicly stated that Leon Cleveland was James Cleveland's only biological child. Leon was born in 1965. Jean Irvin's statement was significant because she claimed that Andre M. Cleveland, often thought to be James Cleveland's adopted son, was actually one of many homeless children James Cleveland had cared for over the years. This raised questions about Andre's adoption, suggesting he was part of James Cleveland's broader kindness toward children in need rather than a formal adoption. During James Cleveland's lifetime, Leon Cleveland and her relationship with her father were not widely known. Gene Irvin's claim brought Leon into the public eye, highlighting the family connections often overshadowed by James Cleveland's public life and controversies. Irvin's statements gave a deeper understanding of James Cleveland's family dynamics, showing a personal side rooted in real human connections. Including Leon in James Cleveland's estate planning showed his commitment to her future. His estate documents made before he died specifically set aside part of his assets for Leon, ensuring her financial security. This was more than a legal step. It was a clear expression of his responsibility and love as a father. Beyond the dark aspect of his life, his music inspired many and continues to be loved today. Cleveland's legacy lives on through his timeless melodies and his impact on gospel music. Drop your thoughts about this video in the comment section, and we will catch you the next one. Bye.